Hello and welcome to Business English Podcast. We're doing something a little different today. You reached out to us wanting to really kind of polish your business English for all those important professional moments.
Mm-hmm.
So today we're taking a deep dive into strategic communication.
Yeah. Think about walking into a meeting
Okay.
and you just command attention before you even say a word. Or, how about this, taking a complex plan and then turning it into like a story that everyone just gets on board with?
Oh, yeah.
That's the kind of power strategic communication can give you. And the best part is anyone can develop these skills.
Yeah, it's like, it's not about magic or charisma.
Right.
It's really about, using your voice strategically.
Exactly.
Using your words strategically. Almost like a chess player making calculated moves.
Yes.
And what I love about this is you can start using these techniques today, like right away.
Immediately.
Yeah, whether you're, getting ready for a big presentation,
Yes.
leading a team meeting, navigating a really tough negotiation.
Absolutely. And we've got a fantastic guide for this deep dive.
Oh, awesome.
It's a podcast episode called How to Lead Strategic Business Discussions.
Right?
Professional speaking guide.
Oh, great.
And it's packed with actionable insights. We're going to break them down into, bite-sized pieces so you can easily digest and apply them.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's map out our journey for today.
Okay.
We'll start with, some of the foundational pieces.
Right.
The foundational elements of powerful communication.
Mm-hmm.
Focusing on how to craft vision statements.
Yes.
The ones that truly inspire.
Yes.
And goals that sound both really achievable but also exciting.
Yeah.
Then we'll move into the art of strategic conversations.
Right.
How to steer discussions in a way that's subtle but really effective.
It's a good one.
Yeah. We'll also touch on the crucial element of cross-cultural communication.
Yes.
So, you can confidently interact with colleagues and clients from all over the world.
Around the world.
Yeah. And finally, we'll delve into the art of data storytelling.
Yes.
Taking those, dry numbers
Right.
and transforming them into compelling narratives.
Love it.
The ones that actually drive decisions.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's kick things off with the vision statements.
Right.
Those declarations that kind of set the direction for a company or a team,
Yeah.
even just a project. I used to think those were just like corporate jargon.
Right.
But this podcast episode really opened my eyes to their power when they're done well.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
A well-crafted vision statement, it can rally a team, it can attract investors,
Wow.
it can even inspire customers.
Yeah.
But too often they fall flat, they sound generic, uninspiring.
Yeah.
So how do we make them stand out and truly resonate?
Well, the episode talks about this triple P approach
Oh, I like it.
for crafting those really impactful vision statements. Pronunciation, pacing, and power. And honestly, even as someone who works with language all the time,
Right.
this really resonated with me.
Yeah, it's a simple framework, but it's incredibly effective.
Yeah.
So let's start with pronunciation.
Okay.
You might be surprised at how impactful even subtle shifts in pronunciation can be.
Huh.
For example, emphasizing the right syllable in words like strategic or innovation
Right.
just instantly adds weight and authority to your delivery.
That reminds me, I was watching a presentation once, and the speaker kept mispronouncing this key technical term.
Yeah.
And it just undermined their credibility,
Oh, yeah.
even though their ideas were good.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
those small details
Yeah.
that can really make or break a presentation. And the same goes for pacing.
Pacing, okay.
Think about a captivating speaker that you've listened to.
Yeah.
They probably weren't rushing through their words.
No.
They used pauses strategically,
Right.
letting their message sink in, creating a sense of anticipation.
It's like those dramatic pauses in a movie score.
Yes.
They build suspense
That's it.
and make the audience lean in.
Exactly.
But how do we know when to pause and for how long?
Well, that's where practice and self-awareness come in.
Okay.
The episode suggests recording yourself delivering your vision statement
Ah.
and then listening back critically.
Okay.
Pay attention to where you naturally pause and then experiment with extending those pauses just slightly.
Interesting.
You might be surprised at the impact.
That's a great tip.
Yeah.
I'm going to try that. Now let's talk about the power aspect
Okay.
of this triple P approach. What does that mean?
So this is about connecting with your audience on an emotional level.
Uh-huh.
It's about infusing your vision statement with energy and conviction.
Okay.
It's not just about reading words.
Right.
It's about making people feel the passion,
Yeah.
the belief behind those words.
So it's almost like we're channeling our inner actor,
Yes,
like embodying the vision we're trying to convey.
exactly. Think of it as a performance.
Oh, okay.
Where you're not just delivering information, but you're conveying a feeling, a sense of purpose.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered vision statements. Let's move on to setting goals.
Right.
How can we present goals in a way that makes them sound achievable and exciting, not just like another item on a to-do list?
Right. This is where the impact method comes in.
Okay.
It stands for intention, metrics, precision, action, context, and timing.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is. But when you incorporate those 6 elements, you can transform a bland goal
Okay.
into a compelling objective that inspires action.
So can you break that down?
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot to remember.
Absolutely. Let's say your goal is to increase market share.
Okay.
Instead of just saying that,
Right.
you might say, our intention is to strategically position ourselves to capture an additional 15% of the market by Q4.
Okay.
We'll be focusing on X and Y initiatives to achieve this,
Right.
and we'll be tracking our progress through monthly performance reviews.
Wow, that sounds so much more specific
It does.
and actionable.
Yes.
I can see how adding those details, the intention, the metrics, the time frame,
Right.
it just really paints a clear picture of success.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And by explicitly stating the action steps, you're creating a roadmap,
Oh,
not just a wish list.
right.
And context is key. Why is this goal important? How does it connect to the overall vision?
Right.
By providing that context, you're giving your audience a reason to care and get on board.
I love how this approach takes something that can feel like dry and abstract, like setting goals,
Yes.
and turns it into something tangible,
Right.
engaging.
It's about moving beyond simply stating objectives to actually crafting a narrative, a story that people can connect with and rally behind.
This is fantastic stuff.
It is.
I feel like we've already gotten some really valuable insights,
I agree.
but I am curious to learn more about how we can use these techniques in actual conversations,
Yeah.
not just when we're giving formal presentations.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And that's actually where we'll pick up in the next segment. We'll dive into the art of strategic conversation choreography, exploring how to use your words like calculated moves in a chess game,
Oh, wow.
subtly steering the conversation in the direction you want it to go.
Sounds fascinating.
It is.
Can't wait to learn more.
Yeah.
But before we move on,
Okay.
I want to remind you all to subscribe to our podcast,
Yes.
like this episode, and leave a comment below.
Yes, please.
We love hearing from you.
Yes.
We'll be back soon with part 2,
Can't wait.
where we'll continue our deep dive into the world of strategic communication.
See you then.
See ya.
Welcome back to Business English Podcast. In the last segment, we focused on crafting really powerful vision statements and setting goals that inspire action. We explored the triple P approach and the impact method techniques that can transform the way you communicate your ideas. Now let's shift our attention to the art of navigating conversations strategically.
You know, I've always admired those people who can just effortlessly steer a conversation, guiding it toward like a desired outcome
Right.
without ever seeming like forceful or manipulative.
Yeah.
It's like they have this invisible hand
Yeah.
just gently nudging the discussion along.
It's a skill that often goes unnoticed,
Uh-huh.
but can be incredibly powerful, especially in professional settings,
Okay.
where so much hinges on our ability to influence and persuade. The source material we're exploring today calls this strategic conversation choreography.
Oh, wow.
And it's all about using your words like calculated moves in a chess game.
That's such a great analogy.
Yeah.
So how do we become master chess players in the realm of conversation? What are some of those strategic moves we can employ?
One technique the episode highlights is strategic layering.
No.
Think of it like building a house.
Right?
You start with a solid foundation. Then you add layers, brick by brick, until you have a complete structure in a conversation.
Yeah.
This might involve establishing the current context,
Okay.
then validating it with like market trends or data points,
Right.
and finally presenting your strategic opportunity or proposal.
So it's about creating a logical flow,
Yeah.
leading your audience step by step toward your desired conclusion.
Exactly. It's about building a persuasive argument piece by piece,
Yeah.
ensuring each point is clearly connected to the next.
This reminds me of something I struggle with,
Uh-huh.
especially in meetings.
Oh, yeah.
I often find myself jumping from one idea to the next, and I can tell people are getting lost.
Right.
I can see how this technique could really help me create a more cohesive and persuasive flow.
Absolutely. And here's another powerful technique the episode introduces.
Okay.
Strategic echo points. This involves subtly repeating key phrases or themes throughout the conversation, creating subtle reminders and reinforcing your message.
So it's like planting seeds in the listener's mind.
Yes.
And each time you repeat that key phrase or idea, it's like watering those seeds.
Exactly.
Helping them take root and grow.
Those repeated phrases act as anchors,
Okay.
helping your audience connect the dots and remember your key takeaways.
These techniques are fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see conversation in a whole new light, not just as an exchange of information,
Right.
but as a strategic art form.
It is.
Are there any other techniques for subtly guiding a conversation in the right direction?
One that I find particularly effective is strategic question stacking.
Oh, interesting.
This is about asking a sequence of questions,
Okay.
each one building on the last,
Mm-hmm.
to gently lead the conversation where you want it to go. Instead of asking a simple direct question,
Right.
you're creating a pathway, guiding your audience through a thought process.
That's brilliant. It's like creating a mental maze for your audience, leading them through a series of interconnected questions
Yeah.
that ultimately guide them to the desired conclusion.
Exactly. And because you're asking questions, it feels less like you're dictating the conversation
Right.
and more like you're facilitating a collaborative exploration.
I can see how this would be especially useful in situations where you need to build consensus or get buy-in from a group of people.
Right.
Instead of telling them what to think, you're guiding them to discover the answer for themselves.
Now, even with the best strategies in place, there will be times when a conversation veers off track.
Oh, yeah.
That's when it's crucial to master the art of redirection.
Okay.
The episode emphasizes that it's not about dismissing or shutting down those tangents,
Right.
but about gracefully acknowledging them and then steering the conversation back to the main agenda.
So instead of saying, that's not relevant, you might say something like, that's an interesting point, and it's something we can explore further later. For now, let's focus on.
Exactly.
And then you bring the conversation back to the main track.
Precisely. It's about being flexible and adaptable.
Yeah.
Recognizing that conversations are dynamic.
Yeah.
And sometimes those unexpected detours can lead to valuable insights.
This entire concept of strategic conversation choreography is so eye-opening.
It is.
I feel like I've been approaching conversations with only half the toolkit.
It's a skill set that takes practice.
Right.
But the rewards are well worth the effort.
Yeah.
Now let's shift our attention to a topic that's becoming increasingly crucial in our globalized world: cross-cultural communication.
You know, I work with colleagues and clients from all over the world, and I've definitely had my share of communication mishaps.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like we're speaking different languages,
Right.
even when we're both using English.
It's a common challenge in today's interconnected world.
Yeah.
And it's something the source material addresses quite thoughtfully. It talks about this concept of the cultural symphony, which really resonated with me.
That sounds beautiful. What is the cultural symphony all about?
It's about recognizing that communication is not just about words,
Okay.
but about a whole orchestra of cultural cues and nuances.
Interesting.
Tone of voice, body language. Even the use of silence can be interpreted very differently,
Wow.
depending on someone's cultural background.
So what might be considered assertive and confident in one culture could be perceived as aggressive or disrespectful in another.
Exactly. And it's not just about avoiding offense.
Right.
It's about building trust and rapport. When you demonstrate an understanding and respect for someone's culture,
Yeah.
it creates a sense of connection and opens the door to more effective communication.
This is so important.
Yeah,
But it also feels a bit daunting.
I understand.
Are we expected to become experts in every culture we interact with?
That's where the cultural communication compass comes in.
So,
It's a tool the episode introduces to help us navigate these complexities. It's not about memorizing a set of rules for each culture, but about understanding key dimensions of communication style, such as directness versus indirectness, comfort with silence, and how status and hierarchy are perceived.
So instead of trying to become fluent in every cultural language, we can use this compass as a guide
Exactly.
to navigate those subtle differences and avoid major communication pitfalls.
For example, the compass might highlight that in some cultures.
Yeah.
It's important to build relationships before getting down to business,
Oh, okay.
while in others, a more direct, task-oriented approach is preferred.
That makes so much sense. I'm starting to see how even a basic understanding of these cultural nuances can make a huge difference
Yeah.
in the way we interact with colleagues and clients from around the world.
And the more we practice, the more attuned we become to those subtle cues.
Right.
And the more effectively we can communicate across cultures.
This has been such an insightful exploration of cross-cultural communication.
It has.
I feel like I have a much better grasp of the complexities involved and some practical tools to navigate those differences with sensitivity and respect. Now, I'm curious to delve into another topic that the podcast episode touched on,
Okay.
the art of data storytelling.
Ah, yes. Turning those dry numbers and spreadsheets
Yeah.
into captivating narratives that resonate with an audience. It's a skill that's becoming increasingly valuable in today's data-driven world.
I've sat through so many presentations
Oh, I know.
where the speaker just bombarded us with charts and graphs,
Yes.
and my eyes glazed over after about 5 minutes.
It's a common experience, unfortunately. Data in its raw form can be overwhelming and difficult to digest.
Yeah.
But when you transform it into a story, you bring it to life, making it relatable and memorable.
So how do we become master data storytellers?
Yeah.
What are some of the key techniques involved?
One technique the episode highlights is strategic data chunking.
Okay.
This is about breaking down complex information into smaller, more digestible pieces
Right.
instead of overwhelming your audience with a mountain of data. You present it in manageable chunks,
Uh-huh.
often in groups of 3,
Okay.
making it easier to absorb and remember.
That makes so much sense. Our brains can only process so much information at once.
Right.
By chunking the data,
Right.
we're essentially giving our audience mental breaks,
Yes.
allowing them to catch their breath and process what they've learned.
Exactly. And just like with any good story,
Yeah.
you need a compelling narrative arc.
Okay.
This might involve setting the stage, introducing the characters,
Right.
in this case, the data points,
Right.
building tension, and ultimately resolving the conflict.
So instead of just presenting a series of facts and figures,
Right.
we're weaving those data points into a compelling plot
Yes,
with a beginning, a middle, and an end.
precisely. And remember, the goal is not just to inform,
Uh-huh.
but to persuade.
Right.
You want your audience to walk away not just understanding the data,
Yeah.
but feeling moved by it, compelled to take action.
This is all starting to click for me.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, how do we make data emotionally resonant? It's hard to imagine getting teary-eyed over a spreadsheet.
That's where the power of emotional data anchoring comes in.
Okay.
It's about connecting those numbers to human impact, to real-world consequences.
Right.
Instead of simply saying, we increased efficiency by 30%,
Yeah.
you might say, this efficiency gain means we can now serve 10,000 more families in our community.
Wow, that's a powerful example.
It is.
It takes those abstract numbers and translates them into a tangible, emotional story.
And those stories are what stick with people
Yeah.
long after the presentation is over.
This has been such an incredible journey through the world of data storytelling.
It has.
I feel like I have a whole new set of tools to make data come alive and connect with my audience on a deeper level.
And remember, these techniques can be applied in a variety of settings.
Oh, yeah.
Not just formal presentations. Whether you're writing a report, crafting an email, or even having a casual conversation.
Right.
The principles of data storytelling can help you communicate more effectively and persuasively.
I'm so excited to start putting these techniques into practice.
Me too.
Now, I know we've covered a lot of ground in this segment,
Yeah.
from strategic conversation choreography to cross-cultural communication and the art of data storytelling.
A lot.
But there's one more crucial area I'd love to explore before we wrap up part 2.
And what would that be?
It's something that can often feel intimidating, even for seasoned professionals. Negotiating.
Yes.
The art of getting what you want while still maintaining a positive relationship. It's a delicate dance, and it's a skill set that can benefit anyone regardless of their profession.
Exactly. But I'll admit, I often feel like I'm fumbling my way through negotiations, hoping for the best,
Yeah.
but not really having a clear strategy.
It's a common experience,
Yeah.
but the good news is that negotiation, like any other communication skill,
Yeah.
can be learned and refined with practice.
So how do we become more effective negotiators? What
Yeah.
are some of the key principles involved?
Well, the podcast episode we're exploring today frames negotiation as a kind of symphony.
Where you're the conductor orchestrating the conversation with carefully chosen words, pauses, and phrases.
That's such a beautiful analogy. So
Yeah.
instead of viewing it as a battle,
Right.
we're thinking of it as a collaborative composition
Yes.
where both parties are working together to create something harmonious.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot where both sides feel heard, respected, and ultimately satisfied with the outcome.
I love that.
Yeah.
But how do we find that sweet spot in practice?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the instruments in our negotiation orchestra?
One instrument that's essential for creating a harmonious negotiation is bridge-building phrases.
Okay.
Instead of simply saying, I understand, you try something like, I see how that connects to your long-term goals.
Right.
Or, I appreciate your perspective on this.
So it's about going beyond simple acknowledgments
Yes.
and demonstrating that you're genuinely listening, that
Yeah.
you're trying to understand their perspective and find common ground.
Exactly. And another powerful instrument in our negotiation orchestra is future-pacing language. Phrases like, as we explore this opportunity together.
Right.
Or, moving forward, I think we can both agree that.
Yeah.
Subtly set the tone for collaboration and shared success.
It's like you're creating that shared vision of the future, that sense of we're in this together,
Yeah.
working towards a mutually beneficial outcome.
The episode also emphasizes the power of strategic silence in negotiations.
Oh.
Those well-placed pauses can often do more to influence the other side than any argument or persuasive technique.
It's about giving them space to think,
Yes.
to process what you've said,
Mm-hmm.
and to hopefully come to the conclusion you're guiding them toward.
And sometimes that silence can be a bit unnerving,
Yeah.
especially if you're used to filling every gap in the conversation. But it's in those moments of silence
Right.
that the other party is often doing their most important thinking.
That's such a valuable insight. I'm starting to realize that negotiation is as much about listening and observing as it is about speaking.
Absolutely. It's about reading the subtle cues, the body language, the tone of voice, and adjusting your approach accordingly. It's
Yeah.
a dynamic process.
Yeah.
And the more attuned you are to those subtle signals, the more effectively you can navigate the negotiation.
This has been such an illuminating exploration of the art of negotiation. I feel like I've gained a whole new perspective and some practical tools to approach those conversations with more confidence and skill.
And remember, negotiation is a skill that can be honed over time with practice and experience.
Right.
The more you engage in those conversations, the more comfortable and effective you'll become.
This entire deep dive has been so incredibly valuable.
It has.
We've explored so many powerful techniques, from crafting impactful vision statements
So many.
to navigating cross-cultural communication,
Yes.
mastering the art of data storytelling, and even conducting negotiations like a symphony conductor.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? And we're not done yet.
Oh, awesome.
Join us in part 3, where we'll wrap up our exploration of strategic communication and leave you with some final takeaways and powerful practice techniques to solidify your learning.
Welcome back to Business English Podcast. In the last 2 segments, we went on quite a journey exploring all these strategic communication techniques, from crafting those compelling vision statements, setting goals that inspire action, to really navigating crucial conversations with finesse, even mastering the art of data storytelling. I feel like you've got such a powerful toolkit at your disposal now.
Yeah, it's been quite a deep dive. And in this final segment, we're going to distill some key takeaways. And then we'll give you some practical exercises, to help you solidify your learning and start actually putting these techniques into action, like right away.
It's one thing to understand these concepts, intellectually,
Right.
but it's another thing to actually apply them
Mm-hmm.
in our day-to-day communication.
For sure.
So let's bridge that gap and make sure you walk away from this episode feeling empowered to communicate, with more confidence and impact.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of the most powerful takeaways from our source material, that How to Lead Strategic Business Discussions podcast episode, is the importance of intentionality.
Okay.
It's about approaching communication not as something we just do passively,
All right.
but as a strategic craft, where every word, every pause, every gesture, it's a choice.
So it's like we're shifting from autopilot to becoming the pilot of our own communication.
Yes,
Consciously, choosing the direction we want to go, the impact we want to create.
exactly. And as we've discussed, there are so many tools and techniques at our disposal.
Yeah.
From the triple P approach for impactful vision statements to the impact method for setting those goals that inspire action. It's about recognizing that communication, it's not a one-size-fits-all endeavor.
Oh, no.
It's about choosing the right tool for the job, the right technique for the situation.
So it's having a communication toolkit. And just as a skilled craftsperson wouldn't use a hammer for every task.
Right.
We need to be kind of discerning about, which communication technique we use based on our goals and our audience.
Exactly. If you're presenting a new strategic initiative to the board, you might focus on the impact method, highlighting the intention, metrics, and projected outcomes. But if you're communicating that same initiative to your team, you might shift gears and emphasize the employee engagement encoding, explaining how the strategy will create new growth opportunities and empower them to do their best work.
That's so interesting how the same core message can be presented in so many different ways, depending on who you're talking to and what you want to achieve.
And that adaptability is one of the hallmarks of a truly effective communicator.
Now, beyond mastering the various techniques, the episode also stressed the importance of practice.
Yeah,
It's like learning a new language or a musical instrument. The more we use these strategies, the more natural and effortless they become.
Absolutely. One powerful exercise the episode suggests is to record yourself presenting a strategic initiative or even just having a casual conversation, and then listen back critically. Are you using those strategic pauses effectively? Is your voice conveying the right level of confidence and enthusiasm? Are you using clear and concise language that your audience can easily understand?
Yeah, that's a great tip. I know it can be a bit awkward to listen to yourself,
Right.
but it's such a valuable way to get insights into how you're actually coming across.
Right.
And identify areas for improvement.
Another exercise that I found particularly helpful is to create what the episode calls a stakeholder language portfolio.
Get with that.
So take a single strategic message and craft it for 5 different audiences: the board, employees, investors, customers, and partners. This will force you to think about how to tailor your message to different perspectives and priorities.
That's amazing. That's a fantastic way to practice adapting our message.
Yeah.
And really hone that skill of speaking the language of our audience. It's about stepping into their shoes and thinking about what resonates with them, what motivates them, and what information is most relevant to their needs.
And as you practice these techniques, remember it's all about continuous learning and improvement. There's no magic formula. It's about experimenting, observing what works, and refining your approach over time.
It's like we're on this ongoing quest to become, more persuasive, more influential, more impactful communicators.
Right. And remember, it's not just about achieving our own goals.
Yeah.
It's about building bridges, fostering understanding, and ultimately, driving towards shared success.
Now, before we wrap up this incredible deep dive, I'd like to leave you with a final thought-provoking question. Based on what we've explored today, think back to a recent strategic discussion. That didn't go as well as you'd hoped. How could you have used one of these techniques to improve the outcome? Maybe you could have used strategic layering to present your argument more persuasively, or employed strategic question stacking to guide the conversation toward a desired conclusion.
That's a great question to reflect on. And as you consider that situation, remember that even seasoned communicators make mistakes. It's not about being perfect. It's about being mindful, intentional, and continuously striving to improve.
And that's what this entire deep dive has been all about. Equipping you with the knowledge and the tools to become a more confident, more impactful, and more strategic communicator.
We've covered a lot of ground today, but this is just the beginning of your journey. The more you practice these techniques, the more you'll discover their power to transform the way you communicate and the results you achieve.
If you enjoyed this episode and found these insights valuable, please don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, like this episode, and leave a comment below. We love hearing from you and learning about your experiences using these techniques, in your own professional settings.
And thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of strategic communication. We hope you've gained valuable insights and practical tools to enhance your business English skills and become a more confident and influential communicator. We look forward to seeing you in our next episode.